Hey there, good people, it's the Crippled Critic, and this week I want to talk about the well-received indie game, Oxenfree. So Oxenfree is a mystery adventure game about a girl named Alex who goes with her friends to an abandoned island one night. There she'll have to use her handheld radio to unlock all the secrets of the island, and maybe even communicate with ghosts. So Oxenfree was developed by a small indie company in California named Night School Studio. The lead writer and directors of the game are cousins Adam Hines and Krankel. Both of these guys actually used to work for Telltale Games before branching out and creating their own company. Adam and Sean had been wanting to collaborate on a narrative-focused video game for a long time. They talked about really wanting to make a game where communication was a key mechanic, but also giving the player the ability to move freely while communicating and also interacting. As far as control options go, there's not much to say. There are subtitles in the game you can turn off and on, and you're given the ability to turn the audio from the controller off, but that's about it. I played the console version on the PlayStation 4, so the action buttons on the right, triangle, circle, X, square, are what you'll mainly be using to play. You'll use these buttons to answer dialogue choices in the game. X is also used mainly to interact with objects. The trigger buttons are required occasionally. Both R1 and R2 can be used interchangeably to access the handheld radio. To change frequencies with the radio, you have to use the right control stick moving left to right, but you can also use the touchpad to do the same thing, depending on your preference. There's no combat in the game whatsoever. You'll just be solving puzzles and answering questions. There's definitely exploration involved and objects to collect, but nothing that requires fast reflexes. If I can think of one difficult thing controls-wise, it's that some puzzles require you to move the right control stick in a circular motion. They're rare, and you can also use touchpad in these situations, but they can be a little tedious. Dialogue choices are timed, but none of the puzzles are, so I would say gamers with fine motor skill impairments shouldn't have much trouble at all playing Oxenfree. For the hearing impaired, there are subtitles options like I mentioned before, large font, and easily readable. Occasionally it can be a little spotty. Now it's rare, but sometimes the background conversations aren't subtitled. For the most part it's perfectly fine, but it's just something to be aware of. I'll also say that none of these moments are important to the story, so there's that. For gamers with visual impairments, there may be a few things to be concerned about. At first I did notice that the subtitles are color-coded to each character, but every time a character talks, their name is spelled out very clearly, so color isn't an important factor to think about, and colorblind players should do fine. However, during many puzzle-solving moments in the game, the screen will turn staticky and blip like an old TV turning off. This can happen suddenly, and might be something to think about for gamers prone to seizures. There also isn't a brightness scale you can change, but to me, even at its darkest, Oxenfree is very bright. So the story of Oxenfree is definitely the best part about it. It's a mystery you really want to solve, and it keeps you motivated to finish the game. Not to spoil too much, but there is a time travel mechanic introduced later in the game, and it's done in a really interesting way. I haven't seen time travel done this well since Prince of Persia. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't as scary as it could have been, although there were some creepy moments. It just had a really lighthearted tone, and at times I thought it conflicted with the story and the subject matter. I don't think the developers wanted to make a horror game though, they just wanted to make an intriguing story, and they did. The dialogue and voice acting is some of the best I've heard in a video game ever. I've heard the main writer was meticulous about the dialogue, and it ended up feeling very naturalistic. Unlike most games, Oxenfree has moments where if you cut someone off from talking, they'll pick up where they last left off, instead of dropping that sentence entirely. If I'm being completely honest though, there were times I wanted the characters to just shut up and let me take in the atmosphere. Characters talk a lot, even when nothing's happening, and when it's inappropriate in my opinion. Still, when they do talk, it's always funny, and the characters have a really dry sense of humor that I love.
You heard that, right?
I'm sure it's just the evil again. I forgot this step in between the finger paint and wearing our lungs. They also drop things.
I don't even know why I ask you.
Oxenfree has an awesome story, and I think an underrated soundtrack. It gives me that sort of X-Files vibe. I was surprised at how important the dialogue choices were. I think because it didn't become obvious until about the end of the game. That's when the weight of my decisions really hit me. Look for Oxenfree on all the major consoles except Wii U, and also Mac, Linux, and Windows. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.